75,000 years ago, every human being on Earth nearly died. Not from war, not from disease, not from each other, from a single afternoon. We know this because of something strange in your DNA, something geneticists discovered and could barely believe. A signature in your genome that says at some point in the past, the entire human race was reduced to a number so small that most biologists would classify the species as functionally extinct. We are talking about fewer people than currently live in a small town.
Maybe fewer than currently work in your office building. That's it. That's all that was left. And every human alive today, 8 billion of us, descended from those survivors. This is their story, and without knowing it, it is yours too.
To understand what was lost, you first have to understand what existed. 75,000 years ago, Homo sapiens had been walking the Earth for roughly 200,000 years. We were not primitive. We had language, we had tools, we had fire. Archaeological evidence suggests we had art, burial rituals, symbolic thinking. We were, by any meaningful measure, fully human.
We had spread from Africa into the Middle East. Small groups were pushing further. The species was growing, slowly, as humans do. Then, everything stopped. On the island of Sumatra, in what is now Indonesia, sits a lake called Lake Toba. It is enormous, 100 kilometers long, 30 kilometers wide. The water is calm and blue and ringed by green mountains. It is also the remains of the largest volcanic eruption in the last 2 million years of Earth's history. What happened there 75,000 years ago was not a volcano erupting. It was a supervolcano exploding. The difference is not one of scale, it is one of category. When a normal volcano erupts, it releases material from a single vent. When a supervolcano erupts, the entire ground collapses inward as the magma chamber empties. And what comes out is not a stream or a column. It is a continent-sized wall of ash, gas, and superheated rock moving at the speed of a jet aircraft. The Toba eruption ejected approximately 2,800 cubic kilometers of material into the atmosphere. For comparison, the Mount St. Helens eruption in 1980, which killed 57 people, leveled forests across hundreds of square kilometers, and dropped ash across 11 U.S. states, Toba was 2,800 times larger. The ash cloud from Toba reached the stratosphere within days.
Within weeks, it had circled the globe.
Sulfur dioxide converted into sulfuric acid particles that reflected sunlight back into space. Temperature records preserved in ice cores in Greenland and Antarctica show a rapid, severe drop. Some estimates suggest 3 to 5 degrees of global cooling. Others suggest up to 15 degrees in some regions. For a species without agriculture, without stored food, without heating beyond fire, this was catastrophic.
The plants died first. Not all of them, but enough. Then the animals that ate the plants. Then the humans who ate the animals. Across Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, human populations, already small, already spread thin across vast territories, began to collapse. There would have been no way to understand what was happening. No one alive had ever seen a winter that did not end. No one had a word for extinction. They only knew that the prey was gone, the fruit was gone, the roots were gone, and the children were dying.
Here is what is extraordinary. Someone survived. We don't know exactly who they were. We don't know if it was one group or several. We don't know where they sheltered, though coastal Africa is the leading theory because the ocean moderates temperature and provides a food source that volcanic winter cannot fully destroy. Shellfish, seaweed, the tide still coming in. What we know is what they left behind in us.
In the 1990s, population geneticists studying human mitochondrial DNA the genetic material passed only through mothers, noticed something strange. Human genetic diversity is remarkably, almost inexplicably low. Chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, show far more genetic variation within their species than we do. So do gorillas. In fact, scientists have found that a single social group of chimpanzees in West Africa contains more genetic diversity than the entire human race.
8 billion people. Less diversity than one chimpanzee troop. The explanation is called a population bottleneck. At some point in the recent past, geologically speaking, the human population was reduced so severely that almost all genetic variation was wiped out. What we carry in our DNA today is descended from the survivors of that reduction. The timing aligns with Toba precisely.
Think about what this means for a moment. Every human relationship that has ever existed, every love story, every family, every friendship, every act of cruelty or kindness or courage in all of recorded history descends from a group of people small enough to know each other by name. The genetic distance between you and a stranger on the other side of the planet is smaller than the genetic distance between two chimpanzees living in the same forest.
We are not just one species. We are one family, separated by time and distance, descended from the same desperate, surviving handful of people who ate shellfish on a dark beach while the sky fell.
And here is the thought I want to leave you with. Not one of those survivors needed to survive. The chain only had to break once. One person dies of cold before they have children. One group makes a wrong turn and runs out of food. One family stays too far inland when the ash falls. Any break in the chain, at any point across 75,000 years of history, and you don't exist. Not your family, not your ancestors, you specifically.
The chain that produced you stretches back through every war ever survived, every disease ever beaten, every famine ever endured, every ocean crossing ever made, through 75,000 years of people who found a way to keep going, all the way back to a small group of humans on an African coast, eating what the tide brought in, waiting for a sky that had turned the color of ash to finally clear. They didn't know they were saving the world. They were just trying to make it to morning. The sky did clear. Slowly, over years and decades, the temperatures crept back. The forests returned, the animals returned, and those survivors, your ancestors, walked back out into a world that was almost entirely empty. A world with almost no other humans in it. A world that for the first and only time in human history had room for all of us. They filled it, and here you are,